I mean, we usually try to localize things as much as possible.
Of course.
You've probably had a lot of local people bending your ear over the past couple of hours. What sort of things are they asking for? They're hoping you can produce with your office now.
I mean, they want to make sure that Southern Arizona is going to be a priority in my administration, and it will be. I said this many times on the campaign trail, and now as governor, that I'm governor for all of Arizona, and I want to make sure that we are including all of the communities across our state, and especially the chances to bring economic development where a lot of the communities down here have been shut out of that. And then also, of course, addressing the border crisis, which I know a lot of communities here are dealing with much more than up in Phoenix or northern Arizona.
Now, on the border, you talked about holding the federal government accountable. How would you do that? Where's your leverage, and what can you do with your own resources?
Well, I think, first of all, approach is really important, and I don't intend to have an antagonistic approach about the issues we're facing, which I think, political stunts tend to bring about. And so certainly we're going to focus on what real solutions are. I've invited Secretary Mayorkas down. I think what I've heard from local leaders is that they feel like they're being ignored by Washington, and that having a visit from a high-level official, the president or the secretary, would go a long way to making them feel heard, and that the needs of their communities are important to Washington, and that they're going to bring some real meaningful relief.
What sort of specifics are they asking for where they feel that the federal government's let them down?
Well, I think largely there is an influx of folks that are unhoused and don't have resources, and their communities don't have the resources to deal with. And so some financial support for law enforcement, for community programs, healthcare programs are going to be critical.
Now, we did talk about how, yes, you want to make the point, if you're paying attention down here, there is that perception that well that it's Maricopa-centric.
Yep.
And the legislature has such numbers there. How do you get around some of that, and how do you get Southern Arizona programs through that legislature?
Well, I think it's by action, right? Coming down here, focusing on the needs down here, not just on Maricopa County. When we're putting solutions in place, thinking about how it impacts the whole state, not just Maricopa County, and really focusing on how we bring some of that local control back to our communities that the legislature has tried to strip away over and over again.
Now, in connection with border, you talked about housing, but that housing is an issue that cuts across all sorts of areas.
Yep.
What can you do here?
Well, as I mentioned, we restarted the Interagency Council on Housing and Homelessness. That is not the name of the council.
Either way, that's fine.
Yes, and so that's going to go a long way towards building partnerships to work together on solutions, how the state can be a better partner, working with local communities, how we can free up resources and eliminate red tape that's keeping communities from building more affordable housing.
Were there other specific things on the wish list that they sort of laid out in front of you?
I'm sorry.
Or were there other specific things you've heard of as kind of a wish list from the officials here, the leaders here?
Those are the big ones, yeah. And then obviously water continues to be an issue for the whole state.
Now, you've talked a lot about reaching across party lines, but you know better than we do that there are factions in politics that their whole goal is to just be angry, aggressive, uncompromising.
Yeah.
How do you get anything through in that atmosphere?
Well, I've had meetings with legislative leadership on both sides of the aisle. I'm encouraged by those meetings. There's recognition that we need to come together to find common ground, that the issues that I've talked about on the campaign trail and now as governor are not Democrat or Republican issues. They're hearing the same things on the Republican side from their constituents, and we have to work together to tackle them. Getting up and walking out of an address is not how we get there. And I continue to be willing to work with everyone, regardless of their party, to tackle these tough issues.
Now, looking back into your background as a social worker, does that help sometimes in terms of getting people together and go like, well, here's where you've got something in common. How do you, does that give you some skills maybe some other politicians don't have in terms of getting these through?
Certainly. I think the core of social work is about solving problems, whether that's with working with individuals and families or working with communities or working to change systems. And it's all about bringing people together, whether you're tackling, helping people support an individual or whether you're bringing people together to tackle issues in a community.
Now, you talked a lot about education, and just talk about why that seems to be the foundation of a lot of other things you're talking about.
Investing in public education is the answer to a lot of other challenges. We are growing the next generation of leaders and innovators here in Arizona, and we need to invest in them. If we don't, we're shortchanging our future. We're not creating the workforce that we need to continue to grow jobs here and grow the economy.
Now, what do you hope Southern Arizona will bring to the table in terms of helping you make these goals, achieve these goals?
Well, again, the issues that I've talked about are not issues that just face Maricopa County. They face the entire state, and we need solutions that will help the entire state. And so bringing people to the table, building partnerships across the state, not just in Maricopa County, is going to be critical.
What are some undermentioned issues that are just sort of lurking out there that are going to need attention soon?
I mean, I think I touched on that a little bit at the end of my remarks. Our prison system needs major reform. We're going to be looking at that in the next several months, and you'll be hearing more about that in the next couple weeks from us. Protecting vulnerable Arizonans, I think those are two of the big ones.
Are there things you hope individuals in Southern Arizona will do to help further the goals that you have and they may have for themselves here?
Well, I mean, just continue to be engaged and bring ideas forward, whether they're an individual or a group. We need to work together to tackle these issues.
Now, you won, but the margin wasn't huge. Mm-hmm. What's it like governing with a slim margin?
Well, I have been doing that for the last 4 years. I also won by less than 1% in 2018. So no, I think it's incumbent on me to heed the will of the voters, that they want people who are going to tackle these issues, put the partisan politics aside, and focus on solutions.